Hi, I'm Doug Jones, and I'm an Australian citizen. With the help of Worldwide Migration Partners, I now have my Australian citizenship and a certificate of loss of nationality. So I met my wife in the early 90s in the United States, and she was from Australia. I had an affinity for the country. I immediately loved everything about it, and so I decided to get involved in the real estate industry. And in about the year 2000, I made the commitment to become an Australian citizen. They said, well, if you want to be an Australian citizen, you've got to give up your US citizenship. I made that decision and I followed through with it and became an Australian citizen. Over the next number of years, I traveled around the world on my Australian passport, and I basically enjoyed just being an Australian citizen. So I ended up buying a real estate office in 2001. We ran the offices for a number of years. In fact, no problems running the offices. There was a time when we decided to head to the United States for a cruise. And so my wife decided to get in early and fill out the ESTA, the visa waiver forms. And one of the questions in particular said, if you're an expat from the United States, traveling back into the United States, please have your renunciation paperwork with your application for your new visa waiver for your ESTA. And my wife was pretty confident that I didn't have any paperwork, and I was very confident I didn't have any paperwork. Back in 2000, when I was making the commitment to become an Australian citizen, the internet wasn't as prolific, and I was never advised that I had to go through any sort of a process with the United States government to renounce my citizenship. For approximately 16 years, I had lived in Australia, traveled with my Australian passport all over the world, and always assumed that I was only an Australian citizen. So unfortunately, Google has come along, and my wife started looking up what the ramifications were to me not having my renunciation documentation filled out properly. A few different potential horror stories were evolving, and one of them was that because we owned our own company and we had a family trust, that the income that I was producing was not only above the exemption level, I was technically liable for double taxation for all the years that I'd owned my own company, regardless of the income level that I had. So I decided to engage one of the largest accounting firms in Australia, who I knew had affiliates in the United States. I felt this might be easier for the negotiations to go back and forth if I truly had a liability of the scale that my wife had found on Google. At a quick estimation, which I paid $5,000 for the pleasure of, gave me a figure of somewhere between $170,000 and $200,000 in back fees and charges that I'd have to pay just to get my tax situation back up to where I was today. So I was handed a business card for Melissa Vincenti, and this large firm, one of the largest in the entire country, said she was the best at her job, that I should give her a ring to answer any immigration questions. I think one of the best things, or one of the best outcomes that could have happened, was they are the ones that recommended Worldwide Migration Partners. Without that recommendation, I would have never met Melissa, and I think that events would have turned out quite different. On the way home from my meeting in Darling Harbour, I left a message for Melissa, briefly explaining my situation. Before I even made it home on the 1-hour drive, Melissa had called me and had said that I should call the large accounting firm and put them on hold, because after reading my synopsis of events, she felt that there was a way that we could avoid paying $170,000 to $200,000. She mentioned that there was a law passed in the late 1800s in the United States, an immigration law, which basically said that if your intention as a United States citizen was to renounce your citizenship, then the intention itself, subject to a few other bits and pieces, was enough to make your renunciation legal. I thought it might be a bit too good to be true, but I was willing to have a further conversation with her about it. In the end, The quote that the large company gave me as to where they felt I would have to reconcile with the United States ended up being well in excess of $100,000 more than the final amount of money I had to pay to use Melissa's strategy, which was a unique one to say the least. That particular law was really the essence of how I looked at my renunciation. From that point, that's where I thought Melissa had a very good strategy, and with the contacts that she introduced me to throughout the United States, and one contact in the United Kingdom, the team that she built was absolutely outstanding. All of them had a very significant role to play, with Melissa coordinating the entire strategy. In dealing with a number of different professionals across the globe for my particular situation, I think it was the personalized service from Melissa and her team that made all the difference. We had to show evidence that I intended to lose my American citizenship back in the year 2000, even though it was now the year 2016. The entire team was with me every step of the way, as well as, I suppose, making me feel a bit more comfortable in trying to do something that not even the large accounting firm I went to thought was possible. So I dealt with Melissa Vincenti from Worldwide Migration Partners personally. I couldn't recommend her more highly. She took all my phone calls, and when she wasn't able to, she returned them promptly. Melissa and all the team at Worldwide Migration Partners were very accessible, were very knowledgeable, and everyone I spoke to knew about my particular case and was happy to help in any way they could. Worldwide Migration Partners saved me at least $100,000 from the original quote that was provided by the large accounting firm in Sydney. Melissa and her team introduced me to a number of international partners that were instrumental in helping my particular situation. I'm ecstatic with the outcome. Now that the pressure's been relieved and I have my Australian citizenship and my certificate of loss of nationality, my business has been running smooth. My family's been able to travel around the world as well as the United States without any concerns. And I owe Melissa and her team a debt of gratitude.